And welcome to the Glacially Musical Podcast. It is beer, metal, and swearing. Of course, I am Nick Cameron. I am also of the Department of Metal Antiquities, and I'm joined by my good friend, a man who may not be so tall, always has something to say, and is always going to be there nipping at your heels. Keefy Chihuahua. How we doing today, buddy?
A yippy little dog. That's me. Seems like we may be having some technical difficulties today. We're going to do our best and do our best for our guest.
Yeah, yeah. It's my microphone or my camera is a little bit goofy. I apologize for that. So I'm going to look a little probably more attractive this week. So you're welcome, America and Canada and Uzbekistan. We've got no Uzbekistan fans that I'm aware of. But anyway, thank you for joining us. If you are here for our guest, who Keefy is going to introduce here momentarily, so you'll already have all that information. But thank you for joining us. Here's how we do this: we do a greeting, a beer check, a vinyl check, a shirt check, a little bit of news of the day, then the meat of the episode. And the meat of the episode today is going to be bantering around with a prog metal genius. Is everybody ready for that?
I'm ready for that. Based on your sample size of what you listened to, I back that genius claim, but like legitimately, did you enjoy the music of our upcoming guest?
Very much so. It was I was not expecting an instrumental track, but I'm also not going to complain about an instrumental track. I if you can take instrumental music without an overt message, without overt melodies, and get that across through your fingers, that's always going to make me very happy. And I will repeat that later. But today's beer for me is a new one for the podcast. Schlafly Tasmanian IPA featuring Tasmanian hops. Finger fudge pour down the middle. And I've got a second one in reserve because I love this stuff. This is one of my favorite beers.
Are you
Seasonal.
are you feeling okay, to quote Pink Floyd The Wall? You seem like very sniffly and nasally today, worse than usual. Is it
I just,
allergies? Do you have a cold?
yeah, just allergies. I feel fine. I just
Okay.
gotta, I am not comfortably numb, but
I
we'll get
get
there.
it. I get it. I get it. Day after day, a love turns gray. More singing. I have yet another Deftones beer, but one I don't think I have had before. This is the Deftones Ohms beer. I don't recall if I've had one. Once again by Belching Beaver Brewery, and this is the Ohms Pale Ale. So you know this is going to be more my speed, not the stouty stuff that I snarfed and did not like. But I'm very excited. And let's see. I have the mic in a new place today. Let's see if it makes a difference. Probably not. Time for the pop.
No,
Nope,
sir.
nothing.
Nope.
Just wow. Just incorrigible. And finger fudge pour right down the pipe. Look at this bad boy. Ooh, not attractive. Maybe we'll discuss the finger fudge pour with our guest because he is a beer expert and a progressive metal genius, as you said. I'm going to take a sip. Cheers to you. Cheers it up.
Cheers. It is YouTube's happy hour.
It is. Um, yeah, so good times. That beer's delicious. I don't think I've had it before. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. Not on this show, perhaps. And yeah, man, Deftones, Belching Beaver collabs. They have many beers. This is a good one. There's only a couple they made I haven't had. Um, what is next? Shirt
Give me a
check? New
quick
vinyl
pause.
check? Sure.
Give me a quick pause. Thank you. Had to get some Kleenex. I also realized why I'm sniffly. Today is Thursday, which has nothing to do with anything, which does not make it nacho night, but in fact, it was nacho night. So I had jalapeno queso combined with chipotle queso, combined with super spicy rice, combined with super hot jalapeno peppers. So I could be suffering some after effects. And of course, I forgot to turn the rice cooker on. So dinner was a few minutes late. So extra quick wolfing down. But next is the vinyl check. I will go first. And it is Los Red Hot Chili Peppers. Hey, that's kind of funny since I got chili pepper nose and it's the chili peppers. Come on, laugh.
There's no laughter in Mudville with that album.
Because the Mighty Casey has struck out.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I love it.
Do you
I mean, I
regret
don't
you love it?
for $15.
For $15, I also might love it, but no.
Cool, cool lemony color, lemon custard. This is the Target exclusive pressing. Got this, like I said, $15 before shipping on Discogs, and you know, Discogs is just a wonderful place to shop. Hopefully, we'll probably talk about Discogs here again in a few minutes with the news of the day.
Discogs needs an app. That's what I don't like about them. I want an app.
Agreed.
An app experience. My vinyl check is cool. New vinyl I haven't checked on the show. And this is, we discussed this, that I was getting one, but here it is. This is was supposed to be for Record Store Day, Black Friday. This is the Sword reissue of Apocryphion, or Apocryphion, however you say it. This thing is gorgeous. First of all,
they have another album coming out on Record Store Day this year.
Yes, we'll discuss in a moment. So just really quick, the album cover has foil accents.
Mm-hmm.
The gatefold is decent, not super remarkable. I think this was a shirt design.
Yeah.
The back cover is splendiferous. Again, the foil imagery and the sunflowers.
Putting on the foil?
It's stamped, bro. It's raised.
Oh, so it's old time hockey.
Haha.
What are you guys doing? Putting on the foil, eh?
I got that reference. I love that movie. Already in the Mylar. Look at this variant. Let's take a look at this swirly swirl. Looks like a yellow with lava.
Well, it looks like cool. A little bit of a starburst there. Nice,
a little starburst. And then there's also the inner sleeve that is cardboard, so no Mylar, but it has this really cool inner sleeve I wanted to show, which has, this was also some sword artwork, as well as this with the song titles and this little cool.
Gotta say, it looks like they went all out on this release, and that being a Record Store Day release, if you just do like my copy of both the Beastie Boys, Some Old Bullshit, and Roger Waters' Wall live in Berlin, they just did a slightly different color and called it a day. I'm glad I didn't pay any significant money for either of them, but glad to have them both on vinyl. But that's besides the point.
Fair enough. News or shirt check after this?
Let's do shirt check. I am gonna stick my arms way up so you see the whole design. I am rocking my t-shirt, which I purchased from the singer whose name I do not recall. I remember it's a very like nerdy, like Milhouse or Albert or Bernard kind of name. He's like, "Do you want to buy the CD?" No. But I do, but thankfully since then they've released both of their records on vinyl via Translation Loss, and I've got them both. So I'm wearing my shirt just kind of in the hopes that we'll get some news. It's been very quiet. I believe there's a side project going on, but I want another record. Is like Clouds Taste Satanic, but death metal-y. It's a great combination.
That is a great description of the band. I'm also a fan, and great label, Translation Loss. Great label.
All great stuff.
Yeah. I am wearing my Heathen shirt from their last album. I bought this. I think this was a pre-order with the vinyl back when that came out. I was still living in Brooklyn, so I'm going to say 2019, 2018. I haven't worn this a whole lot, so this is new shirts in rotation. And I'm trying a new rotation of shirts for the winter. And yeah, and my Pallbearer hat. It's a little chilly here in the Bay Area, so I've been wearing winter hats.
I had snow today, bro.
Oh, well, I have no complaints because it's still sunny and dry.
Not a lot. I walked out of the office today, and it was just one of my coworkers just went, "Snow? What the fuck?" And I just lifted my middle finger to the sky and said, "Fuck you, God. That's all we can do."
Oh, well, this is a little too late to save us. So just really quick, the tagline of this show is beer, metal, and swearing, as I use my Nick impersonation. YouTube is now cracking down hardcore on swearing.
Oh no.
No swearing in your first couple of minutes of your video, or you will get no love from the algorithm. But they are basically going to start way downgrading and shadow blocking and banning any swearing in a video. So this is a
Okay, so
problem.
you know what? I'm going to change it. Now it is beer, metal, and pseudo swearing. So let me
It's not going to look as good on the glass.
Well, I'm just not. Yeah, I know, but we're gonna. Well, that's not on the glass anyway, so it's fine.
I have an incorrigible potty mouth. How am I like in general? How am I going to do this?
I am going to start using words like flipping, like mother flipping, like moss,
mother fudging,
mother fudge, the finger fudge. We already do that. I mean, frick you, God, frick you, and your.
I think we have to be very gentle with the swearing. Now, like we have a guest coming on today, and I've hung out with this guy. He's man cool. He's a friend, not just an artist, but a friend. And we are from the Bronx, New York. We swear it up. So, like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Dude, I'm from South City, St. Louis. We cuss all the time because it's like Nelly says, man. You ever listen to country grammar? That's how we talk.
Understood. Anyway. News of the day. News of the day.
Well, let me go first with my favorite dour dumbass who just keeps getting dumber and more self-important and senile and crazy in his old age. Not only did Roger Waters address the United Nations this week on behalf of Russia, so that is right out, no support there. I mean, don't even bother. You shouldn't even be doing that to begin with. Regardless, anyway, he also has announced, to coincide with the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon, he has re-recorded and he's going to re-release Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon. Thankfully, though, he's going to get rid of all those things like David's vocal melodies and David's guitar solos, because I don't know anybody who's ever listened to Dark Side of the Moon who's thought to themselves, it'd be better without the beautiful singing angel and weeping guitars of David Gilmour and Roger speaking the lyrics.
Yeah, it seems very petty. I mean, like, so the purpose of this, very similar to what Taylor Swift did. Taylor Swift and Roger, I never thought I'd be making this comparison. Taylor Swift was, signed a horrible one-sided record deal as a child, basically as a teenager. And her manager took all the money, like 90% of the cut, similar to Slayer. Yeah. And then she went ahead and re-recorded all her albums one at a time, or she's in the process of doing that, the Taylor version. So her fans will now only stream her versions, buy her version on vinyl, buy her version on CD, buy her version on cassette. So Roger is gonna, he is also Pink Floyd. He gets money from Pink Floyd forever in perpetuity. What purpose are you going to basically pirate a couple of pennies away that would go to you anyway?
Let me just break in real quick. I will stream this once or watch it on YouTube once so I can hear it once. I am still buying, as I have on pre-order, the Dark Side of the Moon live edition coming out. I'm not buying the Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary. I have a spectacular pressing that I will maintain in my possession until I acquire a Japanese one. But I am the guy. I mean, I started an even podcast about this. My other podcast, Department of Metal Antiquities, where we talk about forgotten albums. That's, albums that came and went by name artists. That's like my thing, man. It's always, excuse me, I'm choking on my own bile here. It's always been my thing. I have no interest in this.
And that's saying a lot. You have more Roger stuff than anybody I know, really. That really is saying something. It's pretty petty. And it's pretty dumb. And in wake of the other recent stuff, we don't have to rehash it again.
If I could not listen to this at the tip of my fingers, I would never hear it. This is never going to be played on the radio. This is never going to be a hit. When KC95 is going to play Time or Breathe, they're still going to put the needle on Pink Floyd, not Roger Waters.
He'll get a cut. He'll put out a single. It'll probably be Time, or it'll probably be Us and Them. He'll put out a single. It'll get some play. He'll get some spins. His fan base is ravenous. The people who are still on Team Roger are ravenous. They'll buy it. They'll file.
I'm the teamiest of Team Roger, though.
You really are.
And this is my jam.
This is some corny shit. Yeah, this is some corny shit. Before we go on to we'll debate about having the third item or not, but let me interject with the second most onerous person in all of rock or metal music. David Scott Mustaine cannot help himself.
No, he cannot.
He cannot stop talking mess. See what I did there? Not
Ooh.
the other word. Cannot stop talking mess on people. So David gave a wide-ranging interview to Guitar World. So many things he could talk about, including his incredible prowess, the pretty great The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead album that came out late last year. Well, what does he talk about?
Metallica.
Metallica. Now, he was asked, so the questions are pointed at him, and he's going to just answer when he's asked, right? And he says, Metallica, I don't know why, so I think the question was asked him, like, why hasn't Metallica taken Megadeth out on tour? They did actually 30 years ago, and it was the infamous tour. They did like a mini run of tour dates with Metallica, Black Album Metallica, Rust in Peace Megadeth. I forgot who the third band was. Might have been Suicidal. Could have been somebody else. And that's the infamous tour where they played in Dublin and Dave shot his mouth off about the Troubles and they fired guns.
That was with Metallica?
So if they never did a thing with him ever again after that, you could understand why.
Completely understand.
And so, but David shoots his mouth off. Metallica's scared to take us on tour. And let's face it, Megadeth, right this second, better, maybe perhaps better players than Metallica, surely. But nobody, Metallica's not scared to take them out. Clearly, Metallica doesn't need to take them out. Megadeth needs Metallica. Metallica doesn't need Dave or Megadeth. And he never understands that.
I will say one thing about this news story and I will move on because I don't need to comment about Dave's baby sick. I have seen Metallica 3 times. I've seen Megadeth a minimum of 3 times. I've lost count. And I will tell you, a couple of those shows were not really enjoyable. Megadeth does not put on a spectacular show. Sorry. I would say they're just not terribly entertaining.
I would say this, Dave. It depends on who's in the band. I think
with Marty, it was super boring.
Yeah, he just stands there, and I'm very stoked. I will say on a positive note, Marty is going to rejoin Megadeth, not for the whole show, but he's going to be a special guest at their upcoming show at Budokan. Like all the things that Dave could have talked about positively. How great it is to play with Kiko, how great Dirk and James are alive, all these things he could have did. And he talked about Metallica. It's just super hateful and lame. And as somebody on Reddit, when I shared the story, pointed out, Megadeth had to open for Five Finger Death Punch in America. Five Finger Death Punch opens for Metallica all over the world. Rest my case.
America.
Yeah, and in America, but all over.
Right.
I rest my case.
I could have had free tickets to see Megadeth in an arena show because there weren't enough tickets sold.
I have seen Megadeth like 25 plus times. I've seen Metallica almost the most now, probably like 36, 37 times. And a lot. Yeah. And there are times Metallica has had poor shows, and other times they blew me away. Luckily, most of the last bunch of shows I have seen from Metallica have been exceptional, and the last couple I saw from Megadeth were solid to great. And again, they play great, but it just is what it is. I love Megadeth. I love Dave. I wish he would. I understand how hard it is to get over things. He needs to work on himself still. Do we want to go with the third story? I'll kick it to you.
Let's just go through it pretty briefly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Record Store Day is coming up on April 23rd, so we're a couple of months out. I saw the list today. There's a couple of really cool things coming that I'm interested in. My number one is Eric Carr Rockology. This is the first time that I have actually gonna try to go get it. I'm gonna go to multiple stores, like seriously try to get it. There are 4,000 copies. I have already seen Kiss record collectors talking about how they're never going to open it. So go fudge yourselves, people that do that. There's also going to be another Sword record. I forget the title. The cover is yellow and blue. There is a Dio.
Age of Winners, probably.
Yes. There's a Dio live record from 1983, the very first Dio tour, 2-disc set. There is a Yes 3-disc live set. There is a Black Keys 2-disc live set. There's a lot of really cool stuff. And I'm also going to try to pick up Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes, B-sides and rarities for my wife. She's a big fan of Tori. Turns out we are not going to go see Tori. I am not complaining. She'd rather see Kansas, and I am fine with that, or what passes for Kansas. But this looks like, actually, for me, the best Record Store Day I've ever seen.
I'd be interested to see that track listing for Tori. I have not really seen the full list yet, but I will say that I did see Enslaved is doing a Record Store Day 30th anniversary release of their second album. And
I forgot one. Undeath. Undeath is doing a live album. It's only 7 tracks, but it's a live album recorded at Pop Saloon and Music, which is a place I have been to hundreds and hundreds of times. I've seen Ace Frehley, Testament, Exodus, King Diamond, Black Dahlia Murder. I mean, the list goes on, all the bands I've seen there. So I'm actually kind of excited to get that one. And I don't even know Undeath. I just kind of want to get it just because it's at Pops and they're death metal. So I'm
check them out. You will not be sorry. And I will say they did have my favorite album title of last year. It's Time to Rise, ellipsis, from the grave, which I love anything with an ellipsis because I use them all the time.
I use them way too much and I get made fun of by my child all the time. It's like, why do you have ... Dad? Because you're supposed to pause thoughtfully while you read it.
I will say this as an editor of other people's writing. I don't like when people capitalize to try to put an emphasis on a word that doesn't need it. You should be able to just straight up write the way it is. But I will say that Oxford commas and ellipses all day long.
Okay. Anything else on the news?
Not really. We can do a deeper dive on Record Store Day as it gets closer or after.
Yeah, I don't need to, but
so let's talk really briefly about our guest that's coming in. This is Dennis Lars Torrent of the New York City progressive instrumental metal band the Astral Cadence. You can look them up on Bandcamp. I will link it in the description on YouTube. Nick will link it hopefully on Spotify. We should do a better job of when we have a guest linking their stuff because it's just nice to pay it forward that way, just in case someone discovers them through this. Astral Cadence is a cool band. I met Dennis. We have a mutual friend. I saw them live. They're very much like a heavier version, like Dream Theater with no vocals or keyboards, like
except better.
Animals as Leaders, with less djent but more metal, if that makes sense, heavier. And they're very prolific and interesting musically. I believe they have new music coming out this year. We can ask Dennis that question. Dennis is also an expert level beer enthusiast. He is a beer expert. One of my favorite things is to see him check in places and drink fancy craft beers. So beer questions tonight, Nicholas, if you want to nerd out, and I will be a third wheel on that conversation as a non-expert. But Dennis is a very cool guy. He's very interesting and smart. And I think our listeners will enjoy this casual chat. We'll do a little interview with him about his band, but generally open it up to just about anything. I will pause this recording, let Dennis in, and we'll continue from there. As I knock my glass over almost. And we're back with our guest from the Astral Cadence, Dennis Lars Torrent. How you doing, brother?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing tonight? Or evening, I
Very
should say,
good.
since you guys are 3 hours behind. Nice.
I'm 1 hour behind.
Oh, you're an hour behind. Wow. So we're Central, East, and West Coast.
Yeah, I am. I'm sitting in the 314 home in Nelly, which we talk a lot about on this show, which we probably shouldn't.
I mean, there's got to be some other bands from St. Louis worth talking about that are not Nelly. We also talk a lot about The Urge, because I love that band from the 90s.
Oh my goodness. You just triggered a nerve. I just watched Pulp Fiction the other day. And of course, Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon was on that soundtrack. So
no, that's Urge Overkill.
Yeah, that's Urge Overkill.
My fault.
But they're a cool band also, no disrespect. And I love that band.
But
90s.
Yeah. The Urge was a third wave ska band from St. Louis that almost made it out, but not quite.
I mean, they did a whole tour opening for Korn and Limp Bizkit. I'd say they made it somewhere. But
that was their last tour. They got dropped after that.
Oh, that
was the last gasp. The singer owns a hot dog stand now, and he makes amazing flipping hot dogs, Steve's Hot Dogs. But I'm sorry, we can't cuss anymore, so I gotta.
Yeah, YouTube is gonna start being YouTube's gonna start being literally the tagline of the show is beer, metal, and swearing. And actually, we probably should have had vinyl in there all along anyway, because we talk about vinyl as much as more than anything. But beer, metal, and swearing, and now like YouTube is about to crack down on all swearing. Used to just be don't swear in the beginning of the video, and I have a potty mouth. Everybody knows. But I know Dennis for a few years. Dennis, beside being an awesome dude and a good friend, he is a hell of a musician in a killer band. And I wanted to enlighten our audience, not just on your prowess as a beer expert, which I did talk about, but also
Can we hit the beer first before we do the music?
Yeah, let's do the let's
Absolutely.
what are you drinking?
I bought last night. I went to the gas station by me, and Uptown Manhattan has had Dykeman beer for a while, and I finally happened to come across the 4-pack, which has now become a 2-pack after last night. And yeah, that's been my go-to. There's a lot of beautiful breweries in the 5 boroughs here in New York, which obviously Keith grew up here as well, and I'm sure out by you as well, Nick. There are
90
amazing breweries. That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. But that is a beautiful circumference to cover. If you have 90 breweries, man, there's no drought.
I stopped trying
thing.
to keep up with them. For a long time I was a beer blogger in St. Louis, and it was trying to keep up. Well, who's doing this, who's doing that, and then all of a sudden you have to do lottos to buy tickets to get this beer, and I'm like, that really
Oh,
smacks
that's
of
so
a lot
strange.
it's like that smacks of a lot of effort. I'm just going to go to the store. But we've
Yeah, that's
actually
what I do. Like,
we're in the process of finally getting Yingling now. You can't buy it
nice.
in the
And
store
Yingling is a
yet.
good beer.
That is like my wife's favorite beer, the only beer she'll say she likes. She drank it in college. She went to college in Philly at one
Yes.
of the Seven Sisters schools, and I won't say more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually going to have probably a couple of those tonight after this is over, watching the Blues game.
Yingling,
But yeah,
I do have fond memories of Yingling. Oh my goodness. I was on tour with one band prior to the current band that I'm with. Unfortunately, we had a a hell of a great time, and I don't remember the gig, but I heard that the gig went well, but I don't remember 1 inch of it.
oh my. My
So that's
Yingling
how good of a
story.
time.
My Yingling story is this: I was visiting my best friend in Buffalo, New York, and there's a great brewery in Western New York called Ellicottville Brewing. If you ever get up there, it's in a
Yep.
ski town. And
Yep.
so I went to the Rochester Americans. I love hockey. I love minor league hockey. I love obscure stuff. It's just that's what I like. And I had front row seats because they made me a deal at the thing. So I'm drinking my Brooklyn Lager, which I had never had. I'm like, this, my pint of that's pretty good. Some jackasses sit next to me. I'm sorry, Jack. As is, I think sit next to me, and what do? They put their beer directly on the glass. We're on the glass
Oh,
in the corner on the goal line. And what
terrible.
happens in the corner on the goal line in a hockey game? All
It's
the
knocked right
hits.
out.
So it took
Yep.
about 5 minutes of game time before the beer went head over tea kettle into my lap. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's terrible.
awesome. I'm now covered in your beer, and I have a 45-mile drive after this. So spectacular. Thank you. Public
Yes.
service
Drenching,
announcement.
soaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Public
drenching,
service
soaking
announcement. Hold it.
in someone else's flavor.
Right. Hold it or don't buy it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That beer's not gonna drink itself, bro.
It is not.
Actually,
and it's my pants will drink it. However, I learned that night.
I got a strange beer story. So I went to buy a beer. I went to see Clutch one New Year's Eve with a mutual friend of ours that Keith knows. And I'm walking with 2 beers, and I'm like, excuse me, excuse me. And as I go, excuse me, like this guy literally puts his mouth on my beer, pours it towards him, and I just literally just go right over him. And I'm like, enjoy. And I just walked on, and I gave my best friend her beer. And I was like, man, I wanted to scream.
Yeah, I had that feeling today. And here's how metal and rough I am. As I drove home, I looked over at the charging lot that I see sometimes, and I'm like, wow, those aren't electric cars in those parking spots. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought about all the mean things I was going to do if I needed that spot and would not have the guts to do.
I never thought we'd be having that conversation.
Hey, you left it open. When you leave it open, I go places.
Hey,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
But let's
Yeah.
talk about something that's not stupid. Uh, Dennis, how would you, for our audience who's never heard um, Astral Cadence? Sorry, my brain is broken, so
It's all
I'm
good.
everywhere.
It's all good.
And for people who haven't heard Astral Cadence, how would you describe what you do? I'm curious to see how close you describe it to what Keefy did.
It's experimental, obviously aside instrumental. It's experimental, it's heavy, it's groovy. It has other qualities of other genres of music. It could have a rock vibe, it could have a metal vibe. It could go anywhere between Animals as Leaders to Pliny to all sorts of other, like, not your casual go-to music catalogs or types of music, but we have other things like almost Chimp's Banner-ish, and we fit such a weird niche of bands. We could play a death metal show and we're aces. We could play a indie show and be the heaviest band on it and still be liked. We played a rock show a couple of years back and we were like, we're sore thumbs in this. And we got a great response. We actually did a slam show one night, and this was at Gold Sounds, and a bunch of bands that are now like up and coming all loved us, and we've remained in contact. And to me, I was floored because, again, I don't expect to fit, but we, for whatever reason, we end up fitting all these different styles of music. So again, to clarify, we have a lot of different uh atmospheres that we cover musically, and musically it's just it could fit a lot of different areas, a lot of areas that people will call it gray.
If I could jump in, it sounds a little bit like
Yeah.
you were slightly surprised by the Swiss Army knife appeal of Astral Cadence.
Yeah,
How
I am
how,
because
I mean, how do you use that to your advantage? Obviously, besides playing several different kinds of shows.
to my advantage, well, to our advantage, when I approach a promoter, I let them know the bands we've played with, so they don't feel like, hey, I don't know if you're gonna fit. They, once they see and they go, oh, I booked these bands, or this venue loves booking these bands, why not? It's just it makes it a lot easier for promoters, uh and also leaving New York, which really helps out a lot. When we played outside of New York a lot, often south and west and north and northeast, it really helped out a lot because a lot of the bands that we played with were already in these areas. So it really helped us bring our staple of music to all these different areas. So it was really helpful.
Very cool. What do you have coming up for this year? What do you got planned?
There's one show on the table for April, but prior to that, we are, and I could actually say this and feel very proud of it. We're gonna be going to NAMM for the first time all together cohesively, and
Just real quick,
network
tell our audience what NAMM is, because not everybody is going to know what that is. Very cool. I know what that is, but
NAMM is basically your favorite luthiers of your instruments or your favorite electronic maker for your music desires, including production. For those of us that are in production, who do lighting, video, audio, and staging and rigging, that's also a part of NAMM. So it brings the entire entertainment industry into one culminating weekend, which is amazing. And NAMM, if you are a guitar player and you are I don't know, you're a huge Kiesel or Dingwall fan, for bass players. Hey, go there, you know, and you might meet your favorite musicians. Like some guys love Tosin Abasi and they love, you know, Abasi guitars. You want to meet Tosin and you want to play his guitar? Why not? It's a no-brainer.
This is the episode of this show where we have mentioned animals as leaders in Tosin Abasi more than any other show.
For sure. And he deserves all the mentions. I have never been to NAMM. I wish it wasn't in Anaheim of all places next to Disney World, but I know people who've gone.
Goodness.
We've covered it as a website for Ghost Cult Mag, and you know, I know Omar got to like be within like 5 feet of Stevie Wonder, which was like a big thrill for him, who grew up listening to Stevie. And other people, and I know many people who just go to hang out. I think it's more of a like similar to Comic-Con when it was like a little thing. It was a little more intimate. Hard to say that a thing at a giant convention center could feel intimate, but my impression, having not been, is that now that it's open to fans as much as it is to industry, the shine is off the rose a little bit. That being said, I'm sure still if you are passionate about the music business, gear, and like the highest caliber musicianship, you want to go. And so they still do well. I know I did a really infamous interview with Misha Mansour of Periphery, who has a gear company, of course, is a pedal company and a software company. And the year that NAMM didn't happen because of the pandemic, I was like, oh man, I can't, you know, I'm so sad for all the dealers who are going to lose a fortune. And he dropped this bomb to me. And this like irritated a lot of people, not at me, but he was like, oh yeah, if you need NAMM to make your sales for the year, you don't have a very good company because you're depending on something that you don't have control of. He's like, I know that if we just stop going to NAMM, and he's like, we talked about never going to another NAMM. We sell our gear sells. I know we have a certain fan base that is waiting for the next thing we're going to put out, and they will continue to buy our stuff. And so if I don't ever do another convention, he's like, actually, I hate them. He hates them. He loves meeting the fans. He doesn't like doing the rigmarole.
That's one thing I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted one of my companies to send me to one of these trade shows, and they never do because I know that I would be awful at it. But I'm not going to tell them that. I want the free steaks. I just want the free steaks.
Trade shows. I honestly say this: trade shows are a must for everybody to experience at least once or twice, and then get that under their belt so they could get a better interpretation of it and then know for sure if it's for them or not. At first I was apprehensive. I'm like, man, I'm traveling from New York all the way to another state I'm kind of familiar with because I've been in and out of California numerous times through tours and through work and through other reasons. But at the end of the day, it was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad I made it out here because you never know. And also with the line of work I do, I put together trade shows here in the city. So I've done all types of trade shows, like not only Comic-Con, not only the big happy hour, but I've done numerous trade shows, even for when it's car week or boat week or toy week, you know, all those kind of you start to see it in hindsight. It's all the same plateau, but they all cater to different crowds.
There's
you know, the ones with money.
There's nothing we're gonna do as human beings that doesn't involve networking.
Of course.
And that's what a trade show is. But as I could talk about this kind of thing for a while, but let's move on from that a little bit.
Before we do, let me just jump in and say, like, we glossed over the fact, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis has several endorsements as a bassist, and I think everybody in your band has some shape or form of endorsement from a gear company. Is that not true?
So I managed to score something with Felix Martin, the guitar player.
I was going to ask you about Felix Martin.
Yeah. So right here, which is right next to my little practice area, is
you got one of his guitars.
It's actually a bass, and this was one that he made, and I picked it up, and he was like, "Hey, man, time to start learning. And
Oh my God.
this
Okay, I've got
became-
about a million questions.
yeah, go
Let
for
him
it.
answer
But-
the one first that I asked
I'm
him.
sorry. He got my
so
wow.
Best face
So
ever Nick
he-
ever made.
So, in a nutshell, the Astral Cadence did a few weekends with Felix, doing some shows, and we exchanged numbers, and it was more like, this is pre-pandemic, remind you, and we were always just, saying, hey, how you doing? Hey, happy holidays. Hey, how you been? Hey, how's life in Cali? Hey, how's life in New York? And short version of that, the pandemic hit, we're all in lockdown. He texted me out of left field. He's like, hey, man, I started my own company. Would it interest you? And all I said was, yeah, just let me know. That was it. A few weeks later, he texted me. He goes, are you interested to come to California by any chance? I'm like, yeah, I would love to go to NAMM, but I never have a way to get in. All I said, I'm not like, whose rear end do I have to kiss? Nothing like that.
It's not mine, by the way.
He just says, yeah, I have a booth. Why don't you come and hang? That was it. Come over, hang. And it became this relationship that turned into more, and it blossomed, and it was phenomenal. And lo and behold, he goes, here's your purchase. Go and learn. And if you have any questions, just text me.
That's okay.
That was it.
For people who don't know him, Felix Martin is an interesting character. He is, if memory serves, Peruvian, went to Berkeley, met basically his bandmates in college. He is ambidextrous, plays upwards of 16-string guitars. He has, sometimes it's 8 and 8, sometimes it's 7 and 9, whatever. But he double taps on both of them. And then as Dennis said, he started his own company selling those guitars instead of having other companies make them. Do you play it like he does? Do you tap the top bass?
Yes.
Because the way
Yes,
they're built, you can't put your hand around each neck.
Actually, you could, but you got to have a real good stretch and some really long fingers.
You gotta have Jimi Hendrix
like
fingers.
You better be able to palm a basketball. That's how big your hand has to be.
Yeah,
but not necessarily. I've actually seen a few of the players that have gotten their hands on the instrument and have played open tunings where the top section is not tuned to the bottom and the bottom is not tuned to the top, and it's all open across, and they've played it. Felix actually pioneered this type of instrument. It's not even I wouldn't even classify it. It is a guitar still, because you still have those that timbre and that sonicness. But at the same time, I feel like everything he did was just a whole other
it's a different deal.
Higher. Yeah. And honestly, I adored what he did. I've always been on the progressive side. I've always been into just musicians who brought more to the table than the table already had to offer. And it's just like, wow, to see that and to see him make basses and have guitar players kind of take his motif, his style, his character, and up that even further. You got guys in the FM guitar family covering Metallica on these instruments. You got guys covering Smashing Pumpkins, for crying out loud. It's just like, if these people could cover and you can create, that's what I gotta say. And we all have the ability to. And I feel like what he did was open up another floodgate for creativity. And I'm proud to be a part of that. But to go on to what Keith was saying, I know Bill has been working on some stuff. Nothing written in stone yet. So has Sean. So this is why the trip to NAMM this year for the three of us will be a very important time. And we'll see. We'll see from there.
Any thoughts of I know it's like impossible because the whole town is flooded with tributes and all-star jams and shows, but any thoughts of booking any gigs while the three of you just happen to be on a different coast, or that's out of the question?
I would love, honestly, me personally, yes, 110%. I've played California a couple of times already in my lifetime, and I would love for us to just be able to have, even if it's one night, I don't know, we play the Doll Hut for crying out loud. I'm not expecting the Whiskey a Go Go. I'm expecting to do something cool, something casual. It could be a dive bar. It could be a corner bar. It could even be where the bums sleep on the corner of some gas station. I'm cool with that. You know, if we could pull that off, great. We've been talking about it left and right, and it's been brought up numerous times. The only thing is we would have to travel with our gear and go out there. I've actually uh told them we should really consider this. So fingers crossed, we managed to do something. You know, whether it's for NAMM in NAMM or whether it's a little bar one night, get a few friends in, kudos. You know, one more check on the list of places we've played.
Nice. And then what's the not that I expect you to divulge anything, but I know it's been a few years since the last single. Any plans? I know you guys are always working on stuff, but any plans for a new release this year that you can share or not
So
yet?
yes, we've been recording. We have been doing our own type of demos, and hopefully they could turn into something really, really amazing. We have 3 songs in the works aside the one single that we put out last year, but we have 3 additional songs. And we're hoping that by the time we leave to NAMM, which is in 2 months, 2 months? Yeah, 2 months, that we have at least out of those 3, one of those could be a single and or a video with a playthrough and whatever else.
Killer. Glad to hear it. I'm looking forward to more new music. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about the last time I saw you guys in person, which I'm going to say I moved out of New York in the end of 2020. So it had to be 2019 or 2018. And I don't remember if you were there as a fan or you played with, did you guys play that show that was like the disastrous Brooklyn Bazaar show where the soundboard shit the bed? That was you guys opened, right? And was that Nita Strauss and Angel Vivaldi?
Angel Vivaldi, yes.
That show was a disaster.
The short,
you guys were y'all were hella professional though, but it was a disaster.
The short version was, and I'm not gonna name drop anyone's name. All I gotta say is, as a person who does audio engineering and sound, live audio, the important thing is to turn off all the power amps before you unplug your board. And unfortunately, the person who did that, which I won't name, just was careless, and it made us as the opener look like a bunch of chumps standing around. They were like, get up there, you know, start playing, and there's like no PA. So how are you going to get the drums? How are you going to get the guitars? How are you going to get the bass? On top of, I was cabless that night, so you ain't gonna hear bass through a PA. So I was kind of doing the cabless method with in-ears, where I heard myself, but how are you gonna hear me as an audience member? So that hiccup was a very it was kind of a punch to the nuts. And we were very patient. They were awesome. Unfortunately, the Brooklyn Bazaar never continued on. But the other night I was around there and I was going to Brower and Lane, obviously, for an adult beverage that night. And, you know, it sucked. You know, I was like, damn, this place was so awesome.
I love that venue. I love that venue. I saw one of the last shows there ever, which was Prong, played on a Sunday night, and they had been on a tour with Helmet, which sounds like an incredible tour, Prong and Helmet.
That's an incredible tour off the bat.
Helmet ended up playing at the Knockdown Center, which is in Queens and Ridgewood, and the promoter didn't want to pay for both Helmet and Prong, so Prong had to play the same night as Helmet, a couple of miles away in Greenpoint, to like nobody except like me and Omar and nobody else. Omar from Ghost Cult, and so our mutual pal. And yeah, I missed that venue though, even though that night was terrible and what they did to you guys was unforgivable. And I do love you were very professional. Nita was very professional. Angel was outwardly professional, but inwardly he was not having it. He was so mad.
Yes.
He almost
He
quit
was
the
upset.
gig. He said, "I've never canceled a gig because of the, just like I always power through and we play our show and whatever." And apparently, because he's a perfectionist and I respect this, he had his own board with him also as a backup to anything potentially happening. So that's what they did. They ended up taking out the house board, which was fucked. Sorry, YouTube. And then they put their own board in to do the show.
It was finger fudged.
It was fudged.
Yes. Actually, I do love the fact that the Astral Cadence has had the privilege to play numerous shows with Angel, and I am very grateful that me personally that we've developed a mutual friendship with him. Not to say like, hey, I'm gonna call him right now and be like, hey, yo, let's go out for dinner. Nothing like that. It's just every time we've played, he's been very generous, very kind, very considerate. Even at that show, he was like, guys, thank you so much. And he was very humble. And that's another thing. Like in this scene, there's a lot of egos, but when you see somebody who's humble, it kind of throws you into a tailspin, because very few individuals in the instrumental scene are super humble like him. I could honestly vouch, Angel being one of them, Felix Martin being another, Nita being another, and the list just goes on. We've been very fortunate to have had humble musicians allow us to play with them, and I could always, and I could even speak for the guys, say thank you to those people and be like, we owe you a huge, amount of gratitude for allowing us to be on your show and letting us play to your audience, because that really helps. It helps out a whole lot. And I wish there was more of that camaraderie in the scene, but that's a little bit off topic. But
no, it's completely. I'm sorry. I got the idea.
It's all good. It's all good.
The leg up idea is something that everybody in every scene everywhere needs to come up with. If I love your band, I'm still going to buy your record if I like this band too. If I like your podcast or your YouTube channel, I'm still going to watch you just because I like this one too. Everybody, don't close the door behind you. Give everybody a fist bump and a leg up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My soapbox.
That's the way it should be. No, it should be that way, because we all can achieve something together, as opposed to so divided. And I just feel it would be much, much better. That's just my personal 2 cents in that.
Completely agree.
I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second. So we were like, we were trying to figure out like what, if any, we didn't need a direction, but what direction to go in on this show. And like, rather than do try to do a tent pole thing about, because progressive music is so vast, right? It could be anything. It could be almost every subgenre of rock and metal has a progressive subgenre. But I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, friend, and don't hold it against me. But I'm gonna bring up a band, and I want to get your opinion of this band. I don't think Nick has one. I have a definite one. Let's talk about Polyphia for a second, right? Because Polyphia is like the girl with the curl right now. Polyphia has become like the progressive band for people who don't know what progressive music is, kind of like Animals as Leaders was 10 years ago. But I want to what is your take on them as a band? How do you feel about their last record? You Will Die.
Young, talented, extremely pushing the envelope. I feel that they took everything that has been up and coming and turned it into their flavor. And I feel that's how it should be. Bands that take things that have been coming up within the past 10 to 15 years, even 20 is pushing it. But 20 years, if you take a 20-year window And whatever that genre of music is, and you take it into your own hands and you spin it in your version and you do it in such a tasteful manner. That's how I feel what Polyphia is. Even Chan, that's another one. Like they took something that was 20 years in the making and spun it and made it their own. And I think that's what bands need to start doing, is spinning it and making it their own, rather than, oh, hey, I'm just going to do what everyone's doing. Anybody could do that. But if you take something and you make it your own, as in your band already has a sound and you're developing that and you're going in this scale of whatever the music you're following is, I think that's just going to get you further and further up the ladder. It's just adding to the beauty of what is already existing and taking that further forward.
I don't have an opinion on the artist that's being discussed, as Keefy pointed out, but I love exactly what you said, is filter everything that's come before you through your personal self. And I mean, think about how many artists we have read about, we have heard about, where they said, when we first started, no one would book us, no one would play us anywhere because we didn't sound like anything else. And then the next thing you know, they're headlining Lollapalooza.
Right.
That is true.
I think Polyphia is great. Obviously, their musicianship is ridiculous. And the fact that they became like the mainstream, like a similar to how like hipster people were into black metal suddenly, like 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Don't talk about Deaf Heaven.
I'm not talking. I love Deaf Heaven. They're here in my backyard in the Bay. But
I was about to say Torch the Band. They're kind of up there in that area.
They're breaking up. They broke up, so I'm sad. I saw their last ever.
I
saw their last ever
sad.
show.
I love that band.
Yeah, they just live in different parts of the country. It's one of the pandemic is what broke them up basically, and time to do other things. I think the main guy of the band, Steve Brooks, decided he wanted to do something else and not do the band anymore. So I think those other guys are going to try to find a way to go forward as a different band. And it's a shame because they were, again, a critic's darling. And I think the funny thing, Polyphia absolutely backs up. They have incredible talent. They're getting massively popular. But I think it's just ironic or unironic, I'm not sure which one, that like it's not easily digestible music for the average person, right? There's not like an inherent pop catchiness to them, even though their music has a lyrical quality. So it's just, I find it interesting. I'm not a hater at all, but I hear people talk about them and I'm like, what are you hearing? Because it's not that I don't hear it, but when I hear like a normie, I guess I'm being gatekeepery, but when I hear like a not rock or metal person talk about that band, it's like, okay, here's a band. I'm glad you discovered them, and maybe it'll lead you to discover other bands. But also it's like, not like not that you're not allowed to discover a new band and like them way outside of your box, but it's just weird to me. That's all.
I feel like if you're young and you just discovered them, that is like kind of when I was in junior high and I discovered Typo. Not the type of band that people were like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy that album and listen to it. Like I'm just making fun of people that are super enthusiasts, and you just discover this band and it's just like, what am I listening to? I think that's what it is like for younger kids discovering Polyphia, how you and I probably discovered when we were in elementary and junior high school when we discovered Typo.
I never did figure out what Typo was doing. I never could figure it out.
I just feel like there were those staple bands that growing, I wouldn't necessarily use the word staple, but for me, it's a staple because at the time, it caught my ear, it caught my attention. I feel like that's what Polyphia is to the young crowd. Older people, on the other hand, like us, for example, either love it or hate it, or are,
I think Typo is
tolerate it.
I think Typo is a great analogy because I remember Typo Negative's Bloody Kisses, Black Number One blowing up, and then all of a sudden my wannabe popular friends because I mean, I wasn't popular. I didn't have any popular friends, but they wanted to be popular. I remember them having Bloody Kisses and seeing that going, wow, this is, I've been watching these guys on Headbangers Ball for 2 years, and now this is blowing up to normies. And it's just like, wow, how, I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
how in the world did that band even break through? That doesn't make any sense.
There was a long
Well-
period of time where they had the biggest selling album ever on that label. And I think that's part of it. And I was about to, I'll let Dennis continue. I was going to say, as the two East Coast and specifically New York City guys, knowing that like Roadrunner was our local metal label as much as any other label, and there were others in the city, but like Roadrunner
How
was the
Century
label.
Media was to Europe.
Yeah, or Nuclear Blast to or Earache to England. Like it's the same thing. See, we had a scene around these bands, and except for Sepultura, who was obviously from Brazil and moved to Arizona, all these bands were from the tri-state area, almost exceedingly. And so we just became, or except for maybe Fear Factory and Slipknot later, but like there's a couple of bands that are not from the East Coast, and then the rest of them are. And so I just think there was this fandom and this worship around those bands that absolutely helped them all get huge. Like it definitely helped having New York City, Typo is from Brooklyn, Biohazard's from Brooklyn, Life of Agony's from Brooklyn, even bands on a lower rung, 40 Below Summer being from New Jersey. Like that's a band people don't talk about, but they were really good for a stretch there. Had a big hit single.
I honestly discovered, so you just struck a nerve with 40 Below Summer. I think it was around 2000, 2002, 2001. I saw at the World, I went to go see Mudvayne, and this was for The End of All Things. It was their second album, and I saw an opener that was, I don't even know where they were from. They were called Dep Swap, and I was blown by this band, and I'm like, what a great like co-headliner for Mudvayne. But the opener was 40 Below Summer, and I was caught off guard with that band, and I felt like, wow. Unfortunately, I don't know, whatever. I know that they've been trying to put out material. I know they did a reunion show a couple of years back, but I feel like I don't know what happened to them. But if I hear of something, that's a band I would definitely go back out and see again. Like, because they were such a great band at the time.
You can still see Dog Eat Dog. Those guys are back.
Oh, Dog Eat Dog. Ha. That's like Dog Fashion Disco.
They're also
They're still around.
They're still around. Yeah, they're still around. They have a record out last year. But yeah, man, just fun stories. Maybe there's a future episode, Nick, where we do scenes. We do like all the bands from one scene geographically.
Yeah.
Definitely something to talk about there. I'm sorry, I've lost my perspicacity. I don't have my words today.
Big word. That's a big word, though, that you use.
It's from The Simpsons. I mean, it's fine.
What is it?
Perspicacity, which is, if I understand it, which I may not, just for the record, it means knowing how to use words.
Wow, you just educated me tonight.
Fair enough.
Kudos,
Let
man.
me say, look it up, because I don't know if I'm right.
Yeah. I've had a few words that I definitely misunderstood what they meant, and I just continue to use them until they, like, someone submits. Like I have no chill.
I used to say equivalent. I said equivalent for a decade until somebody finally said, no, it's equivalent, Jack.
Well, I think we can say
hole.
if we can't say ass, then it's not America anymore. So I think we can still say ass.
Alrighty.
Do you have any further questions for our guest as we start to wind this down, Nicholas?
No, I am out of questions. Dennis has been awesome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on this show.
Dennis, what's your favorite beer of all time? Bar none. Gut reaction.
Oh my goodness. Favorite beer, I think, would have to be the Gun Hill Brewery Full Nelson, which is no longer in production.
I've had that. That's a good one.
And now they have the Void of Light.
It was a double IPA, was it not?
No, it was so There was something called full something. I forget the name of it. You are correct. It was full with the name, and I forget the remainder of it. But they had a stout, and it was the full Nelson stout, and then they kind of changed the name up, changed the recipe, and then they created like 10 offshoots off this one stout. They had a void of light, peanut butter and jelly, void of light, chocolate, a void of light coffee, a void of light, I want to say like a cacao, and then I forget the rest. And then they got very absurd and they went up to this 14% one where it was the void of light double bacon, and it was like a 14 to 16% serving, right? In a high bowl, no bigger than maybe that big. And wow, all I gotta say is one of those, you just had to go home.
It sounds like
Just one.
the Goose Island Bourbon County Imperial Stout. The last
Yes.
one I
So
had was 14%, and you drink 1 12-ounce of that thing, and it's just like everything is awesome. Everything is wonderful when you're part of that team. But let me just say, I like my beer to be beer flavored.
yes, I
I
get it.
don't need peanut butter and jelly. I don't want chocolate. Although there is a Quebecois sour cherry beer that I will drink, but it only comes out once every 4 years, so
Love those.
it's fine. I can't pronounce it.
So
Yeah.
so this year, just like last year, I go to this thing at the brewery called Barrel Age Fest. And it's all
Oh,
the breweries in the 5 boroughs, and some are in Jersey and upstate New York and Connecticut. And I believe there is one now that came up from Maryland or Baltimore, one of those two. And it's all barrel aged beers that they start making around now
oh.
or January. And then we come into the new year and it's barrel age fest. And you could try up to 60 to 70 different beer makers
Okay.
of
For a
their
second, I
barrel
thought
age.
you were gonna say they like limit you, because here in St. Louis we have those too. We there's the Live for Life Fest, there's Microfest, there's the Schlafly Beer and Stout and Oyster. Yeah, they price me out of it, and I'm so old I don't want to drink till I fall over anymore.
No,
And
you don't want to do that. You
I
definitely want to
used to.
taste
I
it.
definitely used to. And but
Huh.
we've never had anything that specific. I don't know how long I would last at a barrel aged festival, because barrel aged stouts usually start the conversation at 10% ABV.
Yes.
That's a
So this
short day.
one, so this one goes on from noon till 5. It's literally 5 hours. But the downside is you try all these beers, but they give you such a small amount like
Yeah, you
that
get
in a
about an
highball.
ounce,
In
ounce
the
and a
high,
half.
it's like half an ounce.
Oh, that's
The
not
the cup
even.
that I have
Uh-huh.
is like the size of your nail.
Like a
That's the
thimble.
size of the
You get
cup.
a thimble full.
Yes, they give you a little squeeze. Here, taste it. You're supposed to
Squeeze.
swivel it. They give you a little squeeze. You're supposed to, flavor it around your palate, and then you spit it out. No,
No.
it's like, this was me the entire time, just like kept chugging them, chugging
Spit
them,
it
chugging them.
out. No, this is not wine. This is beer, sir.
No, but the beauty is at a brewery, so all the drains are there, so it's not like you're spitting on the floor. It's a little disgusting, especially post pandemic, where I've kind of become a germaphobe.
We all have. We all have.
It goes to show my age, but this is something I highly recommend to all my friends and you guys and everybody who's going to be watching this. Gun Hill Brewery is always hosting this year after year for $70, 5 hours. Can't go wrong. And you get to buy. So, like, if you try something, I try your barrel aged, I don't know, sour or stout,
Mhm.
or this random IPA that you aged in like a triple oak cherries. it's gonna be phenomenal, and I could actually buy it from you or from Keith, and I'm aces, and I'll take that home as sideways as I'm walking out of there and get home and put it in the fridge and then have it whenever I want. They'll sell you a champagne sized bottle of everybody's stuff.
Oh, very cool.
That's amazing. For like, I don't know, the bottles roughly are anywhere between $12 and $25, which
that's not bad.
It's kind of, it's
finish your thought. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, but that in a nutshell is worthy of doing. And if you guys ever find yourself up here around January in the first 3 weeks, I would literally drag you guys with me.
I would happily go.
Yeah, if we're ever in New York together, you wouldn't have to drag me. So Gun Hill Brewery, just really quick as we wind this down to the end. Gun Hill Brewery is in my old stomping grounds, literally almost my old neighborhood, just about 15 blocks from where I grew up or less. I also spent a ton of time in that neighborhood historically. So yeah, great. I'm super stoked that it opened. I had been there twice. It was really fun. Also, the Royal Coach Diner is right there. Many good and bad memories of that place.
Right across the street.
Still open somehow. I'm sure they'll never close. Yeah, man. Dennis, it's been a blast having you. It is a staple, but it's also not the best idea. Not the best place to go. But thanks for being here.
Sounds like the drawing board at Gravois and Chippewa. They got the worst location in the world. Next door to the sex shop, across the street from the place where the cops show up every day.
All right, then. I think it is my turn to take us home on the outro. So I shall. And once again, Dennis, thanks for being a great guest. I thought you would be, and you proved me correct.
Thank you.
It was a great honor, great fun chat, and just seeing where it goes. And I had a blast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Kindly, I appreciate it. This is phenomenal between beer and metal and music in general. I think this is
sadly no swearing. They took that away from us. But
well, we still
whatever.
We still managed to swear. This has been the Glacially Musical Podcast. I'm your host, Keefy, the co-host Keefy. The host is actually Nick. I'm just the co-host. Our guest has been Dennis from the Astral Cadence. We will link all of his jazz in the description so you can check out his band and support him on his potential new music coming up very soon. As we say every week here at the Glacially Musical Podcast, it does not play in Peoria, but maybe someday the Astral Cadence will.